Houston, Aaron Judge spoke today with the assembled media down in Tampa. So let's listen to some of what he had to say. Now, he was asked a question, do you feel more urgency in Soto and Boone's year, where both of them are in the last year of their contract? Here's what Judge said.
We always have a situation where we just traded for a guy, or we traded for a guy last season. Now this is his last year with us, or stuff with the manager, different players. But when you play in New York, it's every year. The expectation is to win a championship. It doesn't matter who's here, who's not here, who's going to be here. It's just about putting in the work and doing what we can to put this team back on top. And like I said earlier, a lot of the changes we've made throughout the off season, literally I feel like it started in November. Guys were making changes. We're having phone calls, we're having conversations, meetings, and just to see that, commitment from the organization and, the commitment to want to hear from the players, hear from other people, the good, the bad, it's been exciting. So this is the year, but we just got to get out there and play.
Now, one of the things that Judge did at the end of last year, he was very forthright about, the application of the analytics was not quite perfect. Almost a philosophical problem with it. And he talked today about the discussions he had with Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman about those changes.
I think a lot of it will go unnoticed, but I think we had a lot of great talks in the offseason. Getting a chance to talk with Hal, getting a chance to talk with Cash a lot. I think, the time he spent with me and myself and Garrett and kind of all of us kind of just talking about different things that we value and kind of them explaining what they value, I think was able to kind of come to a clear answer. But, I've always been a guy about you win games by driving people in. You got to score runs. And, RBIs and runs have always mattered to me. That's, one thing that I try to take pride in. And, it may not be something you can measure, but driving a guy in is a skill. So I've always liked having guys that could drive people in. And, when you go out and you go get a Juan Soto, you go get a Verdugo, you get guys that put the ball in play and can drive guys in. I think that makes a statement about, how they believe in things and what they want to do. So I'm, pretty excited about some of the things that happen.
I like that he said that because, a lot of analytics groups don't put a lot of emphasis or import on RBIs because they say RBIs are just a product of where you're batting and the people in front of you get on. But Judge is saying that there is an art to bringing that run in. To hit a fly ball with a runner on third and one out or nobody out.
You know why he's saying that?
Why is that?
Because he's watched baseball before.
And he's played it. So I think...
And you don't even have to play it, honestly. You could literally just have it on your TV. But there are guys who are better at doing that than other guys.
See... It's so frustrating when we just blanketly say, like, what the analytics mean, that they don't value RBIs. But on a team like the Yankees, you should. Now, I don't value RBIs on a lousy baseball team because no matter how good I am, if nobody's getting on base, I'm not going to be able to drive in 130 runs on a team that stinks. But if I'm on the Yankees and I'm a really good baseball team with a ton of all-stars, then I'm going to value RBIs because there's going to be a ton of guys on when Aaron Judge comes to the bat. Now, if Aaron Judge is playing for a lousy baseball team, Michael, and every time he comes up nobody's on, then good luck driving in 130 runs. But on the New York Yankees, RBIs should be valued. On a really good baseball team, they should be valued.
And that's why, to me, it always seemed a little odd to have Judge bat second. And I understand that he got about 40 more at-bats per year because of that. But, let's say he played 162 games. Then 162 games, he came up with, at the most, one guy on base. And that's why one of the reasons I think he wants to bat third. And he talked about, do you want to hit third and Soto second?
And when you got a guy like Soto, I'd love to hit behind him. If he hits two, or even if, I'm hitting second, he's hitting third, and he's driving me in, I'll take either of those outcomes. So that means we're scoring runs. So, however Booney's going to come up with the lineup, I know he puts a lot of thought into that. He asks a lot of us, too, as players, like how we feel about certain things. I know he knows that matters to us. So I'll be happy anywhere Soto hits. As long as he's in the lineup every day, I'm going to be happy.
Great answer. There was some talk that he really wanted to bat third, and I think he does. But he's making it easy for Boone. But I think Boone is leaning towards Soto second because he wants righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, to balance the lineup. But, it seems to me a waste then. The year that he hit 62 home runs, he didn't really have 150 RBIs because, I think he played 155 games. 155 games, he came up in the first inning with one or nobody on base. So you're wasting 155 opportunities for him to drive in a lot of runs.
I wonder what the difference is. I'm sure they've done the numbers, Michael. of how many RBI potentials were lost because of batting third as opposed to second. Because it really only affects the first inning, right? Because then once everything gets mishmashed during the course of the game, you might have runners on. But in the very first inning of the game, the most you can have is just one. But I wonder what the actual numerical value is of that.
And also,
like how many?
Even if not in the first inning, Don, the weaker hitters in the lineup are at the bottom of the lineup. So even when you're turning the order over, in all likelihood, you're not going to have as many people on base for him to come up when he's batting second. But he's batting third. The first two guys can get on.
True, but you do usually have your ninth hitter now that the DH is universal. But before, even in just the American League, there was kind of a leadoff of Jace because you wanted to make sure that you had somebody that can get on for like later in the game when your number two hitter might have the potential to getting more batters on as opposed to somebody that didn't have as great an on-base percentage. I'm sure they've done the math, but it really is the first inning as far as, the most you can have is one guy on. And if you bat third, I guess it depends on what team you're on and the on-base percentage of the first two guys. But maybe it's negligible. Maybe they've done the work, and the at-bats opportunities of the number of at-bats are valued more than the potential of having somebody on.
And finally, Judge was asked, are you hoping the team makes another move before the season begins?
I hope so. They're always working. That's the thing that's amazing about being here with the Yankees is, they're always trying to improve. They're always trying to make moves, if it's via trade, if it's via free agency, so I definitely feel like there might be another move on the way, but you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be curious. We had Maddox on earlier. He said he still doesn't think it's too late for a pitcher to get ready for, the first week of the season. But Snell's still out there. Montgomery's still out there. Cody Bellinger still out there. J.D. Martinez is still out there. It's amazing. Matt Chapman's still out there. And spring training is underway, baby. All players reported yesterday. It's just very, very odd.
Well, what's the line to you?
What do you mean?
What's the date to you where signing someone might be just a little bit too late in spring? We can't be close to it yet,
I
right?
think when the games start, it's Saturday. Because, as Maddox said, you have to have 5 starts to get ready. You're not going to have 5 starts because if you sign on Saturday, right, you're going to need a week to get ready before you pitch in a game. So you're behind the 8 ball. It's crazy. It's crazy what they're doing. Any team that signs these guys after Saturday, you're taking a chance.
I'm with you, Don. I feel like it could be a little bit longer, depending on who the pro is.
Well, and also, you don't necessarily have to start the season in the rotation if it's a little later, and they can stay down in Florida and get a simulated game, and they maybe, pick up the second time through the rotation to jump in rather than, have to be ready for the first week of the season. I think that we can. I'm with you, Michael. I don't think you want to do it too late. You certainly don't want to do it in season. But if 10 days, 2 weeks from now, somebody were to sign, it might affect their availability for that first rotation through the order. But I still think they could be available early enough in the season to have an impact.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem signing Bellinger or Martinez, 2 weeks from now. I mean, a hitter needs just 3 weeks to get ready. It's a pitcher, you have to build them up. So the first start is 2 innings, then the second start is 3, but you can't start them the second start till 4 days after the first start. So you just do the math. 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5. You want to build the guy up to 6 innings before, his first start. Which I don't even know if that's needed anymore because they don't expect to get 6 innings out of starters anymore.
But, that's fair.
Yeah,
too.
see, that's the other. Yeah, and I think I'm sure that you can throw on your own. Blake Snell's been in the league long enough. He knows how to ramp himself up. I mean, he may not face somebody in an exhibition game, but I'm sure he can go somewhere and throw and get his arm ready so when he jumps into spring training, it's not the first time he's picking up a baseball.
Don't know if you guys saw the ratings for, the All-Star game. It's like 6 million people. And that's why they could throw poop out there on the court, and it wouldn't matter. There's nothing on opposite it. So if you're a sports fan, you're going to watch. Just like the Pro Bowl, which was flag football, literally flag football, also drew 6 million. That's a big number on TV now.
Yeah, I get. Well, it all depends on what you expect to get.
They can't expect much more than that.
It was a tick better than last year. So that to me
last year was one of the worst.
What's important. Right, but at least you've improved off of last year, and I don't think any sport outside of football is going to sneeze at 5.5 million people watching whatever it is. I mean, what do they? What does TNT usually get for a game?
Not that.
I'm sure they probably don't get more than like 2.5, 3 million, right? For the doubleheader that they would have. So if they're able to almost double that amount for the All-Star game, it's not going anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it, but my question is there a generation of fans that like it and love seeing 200 points and love seeing half-court three-pointers? The old-school guys want more defense, but I'm just wondering, the people that they're catering to, are they upset? Are they mad at the way the game is played on Sunday?
Even though it's not real basketball, Don, there was an entertaining aspect to it. You see these guys, the athleticism, but it wasn't a real basketball game. So it's all according to what you want, what you're turning the TV on for.
Right. But I think a lot, and again, I keep talking about like generations, but it seems like the younger generation, which every sport is going after, they're not watching that game to see, that they're a Knick fan wanting to see what Brunson does. They want to see stars. And what is Lillard known for? Lillard's known for taking logo threes, so take a bunch of them. Points. Everybody's looking for points. It doesn't entertain me. I like the complete sport, but I think there's a whole bunch of people that do appreciate that.
Now, Bill James is considered the godfather of analytics. He's the one who, with his handbook, he really was cutting edge. And he tweeted this out a couple of days ago, and I thought it was interesting because we're talking about what Judge said. And Bill James said, I have to take responsibility for partially or even largely convincing a generation of researchers to write off situational hitting variations as flukes. I may have been wrong to do that. We have vastly better data now than we did 40 years ago. Let's look at the options again. So that's like, even with doctors, people get things wrong. So at the beginning of an analytical revolution, you could say, that's just a fluke if a guy's a good hitter in the clutch. Every player I spoke to believes in hot and believes in hitting in the clutch. Everyone. Every single one. Alex Rodriguez, whatever you want to talk to him about, ill-gotten gains with the PEDs, he was one of the greatest players who ever lived. How he got there, let's argue about that.
Right.
He's one of the greatest players who ever lived. He said, anybody who does not believe in hot has never picked up a bat and never, ever played in a game. Because when you're hot, you have a different feeling at the plate. And if you're a clutch player, you have a different feeling at the plate than another guy.
Well, but I don't want to get too deep here, but what do they say about scientists? Like, a scientist doesn't believe in God because he can't prove God's existence.
Right.
Well, it's kind of the same theory in analytics. They don't like hot. They don't want to have to talk about hot because they can't quantify it. They can't put a number on it. Like, because it's something that just exists, but they want some kind of numerical value to everything. Like, how do you quantify hot, Michael? It comes and goes. A player feeling it. Why does he feel like one day the ball is a beach ball and the other day it's a BB? Like, it just happens. That's how sports works. That's how life works. Some day you feel good, some days you feel bad. They don't believe in it because they can't prove it. They can't see it coming. They only want to live within the numbers, the things they can absolutely prove. So they completely dismiss the things that they can't.
Let's go to the phones, 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Bobby in Long Island. Bobby.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Listen, I love you, but this Judge injury is really out of control. What you and the Yankee brass are talking about last year. Altuve and Alvarez missed 70 and 50 games respectively last year. The Tampa Bay two best players, the best offensive player, Franco and McClanahan, the best starter, both missed the last 2 months of the year last year. Seager missed 40 games. The ground was out for basically the whole year. Valdi missed a month. It took another month to recover last year. The Dodgers missed 4/5 of their starting rotation last year. I want to talk about the Yankees this year and help out winning a championship. I just want to get your comment about that before I get to the Yankees starting rotation.
Well, you just talked about Judge. They lost Rizzo. They lost their catcher. They lost Rodon. They lost Cortez. Listen, other teams absorb. It doesn't matter. Other teams absorb losses better than the Yankees did.
Right.
The Yankee farm system was not able to produce next man up last year. So you can't say the injuries didn't have something to do with their poor performance.
Yeah, but these four teams that I talked about all made the playoffs in the end.
Okay, but the Yankees didn't. But so the first or second year that Boone was there, they had so many injuries. They won over 100 games. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It was a tipping point last year. They had too many injuries to significant players. How could you fight that?
Okay, he talks about hell-bent winning on a championship. I mean, the Yankees made, 53 starts last year. The 2, 3, and 4 starters as of now. And they had a 5-year rate. That's like 60% of their starts. You mean to tell me, Rodin, we know he's a head case and the arm and shoulder injury history. But the thing I'm concerned about, this guy actually admitted having a chronic back issue. Cortez had 2 rotator cuff strains. He has a better chance of having shoulder surgery than having bounce back here. Stroman hasn't pitched 140 innings the last 2 years. It had an 8 ERA in the last 11 starts last year. And Schmidt had a 5 ERA in the second half. So, I mean, at least 2 of these 3, forget Schmidt, 2 of the 3 things have to, come back to where it was. And it's going to be very difficult. I can see them getting into the playoffs with their hitting, but there's no way they win a championship with this starting staff personally constructed.
Well, I mean, I would agree with you. I'm worried about Cortez because he never got it addressed. He just rested, and what's to say it's not going to come back? I believe that Rodon, the 2 years prior to becoming a Yankee, he was in the Cy Young top 10 voting. The guy can pitch. I don't know why you say he's a head case. He did have the back issue, but the bottom line is, if he's healthy, he's going to be a really, really good pitcher for them, and that will mean a lot. They're hoping that Clark Schmidt will improve after his first year in the rotation, but those are important people for the Yankees. You're absolutely right. Nobody's saying it's a slam dunk. I have never on this show said it's a slam dunk they're going to win a championship. I'm saying that if everything goes great, they've got a chance. But I don't know what you want them to do. They have a $305 million payroll. You want them to go to $400 million and sign Snell and Montgomery?
But even that wouldn't guarantee anything, Michael.
There are no guarantees. The Dodgers aren't guaranteed.
I don't know what people want, because you take a look at sports in general, and the best teams don't always win. There's things that happen during the course of the year, not just injuries. And I hate when the analytic people talk about the postseason being a crapshoot, but in some cases it is. I mean, who had the Diamondbacks going to the World Series with all those great teams in the National League? Michael, the Arizona Diamondbacks make it to the World Series. It's crazy. The Boston Bruins break records for wins and points in the regular season last year, and they get bounced in the first round. Would anybody be shocked? I know you probably will, because you've got UConn against the field. But the reason people take the field is because things can happen. There could be an injury to the Huskies. Just something knocks them off that they don't get there. How often does the best team win? Was Kansas City the best team in the NFL this year, Michael? At any point were they the best team in football?
No.
And they end up winning the Super Bowl, right? So that's what's working against them, is that no matter how much money you spend, no matter how great your team is, sorry, there are no guarantees in sports. I know Yankee fans want some sort of a guarantee. Sign every free agent available. Things can still stop you from winning a championship.
1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Joe in Hewing.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. By the way, before I ask you my question, I just want to tell you my first Yankee game was July 28, 2022. When you called that, when Aaron Judge hit that walk-off, it was incredible.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that great call.
Cool.
So back to my point. Greatest moment of my life, by the way. So my question is, Soto's down with the Yankees, and Judge is, of course, is batting third. And I just wanted to tell you, I really think that the Yankees can really pull it off this season. If these two guys can stay healthy, which obviously Soto has been, I guess he's been healthy for the last few years. He's been very consistent. Judge, I just honestly believe that whatever they do with him on the defense, they just have to be careful with him, because, of course, what happened last June, he injured his toe, and then he missed out a few months. In my honest opinion, do you think that the Yankees can really pull it off this season? My honest answer is I think they can. They just got to be very careful with the guys that they put out on the field.
Well, can they? Absolutely. Are they an overwhelming favorite? No. According to Vegas, they're not. No. And according to my eyes, they're not an overwhelming favorite. But they certainly have an avenue to get there if everything goes right.
I was just thinking when that caller was talking about it, how many championships did they win with A-Rod? One. How many did you think they were going to win when they got him?
Right.
You figure they're going to win every year. That's how hard, especially in baseball. So I think all you have to do, you just have to put yourself in a position to get there. And I think they clearly have. Now, will they do it? There's a lot that goes into it. Health, clutch, who's hot, who's not, all the things that we talk about. But all you can ask a general manager and an owner to do is put your team in a position to win, and clearly the Yankees have done that.
All right, so at 5:30, the GM of the Nets, Sean Marks, is going to address the media for the first time since firing Jacques Vaughn and hiring Kevin Ollie. So we will at least cover the beginning of that just to see the reasons for doing what he did. So we want to listen in on that. We're not going to carry the whole thing. Now on Yes, the home of the Nets, they are going to carry the whole thing. But when we break out after what we've heard from Sean Marks is enough, then we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled show. And obviously you're going to have to listen on the radio if he continues to talk much longer than after we drop out. You got all that? So Sean Marks at 5:30 will address the media. We'll take the beginning of it just to see and hear what's going on, his reasons behind it. So stick around. The K Show right here on Yes and 98.7 ESPN.
Michael, hi, Michael, Don Peter. Let's start a campaign. You know, we always talk about how to speak, right? We don't say RBIs anymore. We say RBI. And we say the New York Football Giants instead of the New York Giants.
I don't do either of those, but go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, I don't do either of them.
Peter, okay. Don, why do we say spring training? They're not training in spring. They're training in winter. They started a week and a half ago, and their last game is around March 20th, March 22nd. The Yankees start the season March 27th, I believe. There's no training in spring. They're ready to go in spring. Why don't you get in touch with Manfred and say no more spring training? It's going to be called winter training from now on. How about that?
Do we have an answer? Well,
Richard, I will not do it. I will not do it. I refuse to do it. I thank you. I thank you for attempting to get me to. I refuse to do it. I refuse to lower myself to get into an argument about spring training. I just won't, because it used to go into spring, Don, when the season would start on April 15th.
Yeah, see, that's the answer, right? And why would you change it? It's semantics. I get it. And you know what? His two examples are not good examples. I never say the New York Football Giants.
And I refuse to say RBI. It's a geek thing. RBI is a geek thing.
And we're not geeky, so we're not going to do that. And I never thought about it. I'm kind of intrigued, but then you just answered it. Back in April 15th, they used to start, so it would spill into spring training. Richard, I wish I had your kind of time, that these are the things that would allow myself to be bothered by.
I hope his practice is thriving. I mean, because these things are on his mind. I hope there are people in the waiting room ready to get drilled. I just hope.
I'm going to need that.
Go to Manfred and tell him it can't be spring training anymore. It's going to be winter training. Yeah, okay, Rob.
It's one thing to be curious about it, but then to demand a change. And if we ever got Rob Manfred on, of all the things we could ask him, what a waste if that was one of the questions that we asked.
It's Richard's special. Let's go to Andrew in Queens.
Hey, fellas, how we doing?
Great, you?
It's going to be something tough, that Richard call.
Yeah.
Before I get to my question for you, Mike, just want to say quickly, Don, ESPN does a lot of great things, but not having you on their hockey broadcast is complete professional,
malfeasance.
Malfeasance. Yeah. Even better. It's terrible. You're on the payroll already. I don't understand why they don't utilize you on the broadcast. But
I appreciate that point. Thank you.
So, Michael, question for you. I finally got around to watching The Captain, the Derek Jeter documentary on ESPN, and a great documentary. But the main thing that I'm kind of curious your opinion on, being so close to Derek for a while, he ends the documentary saying, I wish I enjoyed all the good things that I got to do throughout my career. But I look back at the championships that we didn't win, 03, 01, and the ALCS in 04. I'm just curious, from having so much time with Derek, what's the one that you think he would give up a championship for? Do you think he would rather have 01 or win in 04 and then assumingly win the World Series in 04?
Like give up one of his championships? Well, obviously 01 was special because of what was going on in the world. I think
Right.
Losing the 3-0 lead is a blemish that none of the people on that team are ever going to get over. I mean, you kind of got the Red Sox off their snide. So I think that's the one that stings the most. So 2001, it was a valiant effort. They came back in games 4 and 5, the 2 unbelievable games at Yankee Stadium, and they were ahead in Game 7. It was one of the greatest World Series. But blowing a 3-0 lead to the Red Sox is one that I think they all want back. They all, and there's no guarantee you win the World Series. I think they do. 2004, was that the Rockies that the Red Sox played, or the Cardinals? I think it was the Cardinals. The Yankees would have beaten the Cardinals. So I think that's the one they all want back. That's the one you'll never get out from under.
That's the answer. Now, listen, 01 would have been amazing. 4 straight championships. That would have been one heck of a dynasty to be able to do that in this day and age. Or actually, it was 20-something years ago, but still, you know what I mean. 4 in a row, and they be that close was killer. But you said it best, Michael, when it happened 20 years ago, that if we're playing baseball in year 3000 and a team's down 3 games to none, no matter how many times it happens between now and then, the graphic will still have the first time it ever happened in baseball, it happened to the New York Yankees. So it has to be 04.
And you know what? I don't know if it's going to happen again. In all the sports, that is the toughest. It's hard to get on a roll when you have to have 4 different pitchers step up and pitch well and make up a 3-0 deficit. It's almost impossible. That's why it's only happened once in baseball. But in other sports, it's happened. You can get physical. And get on a run. In basketball and hockey, the same thing. But in baseball, to have 4 terrible pitching performances in a row, or 4 great ones, it's inconceivable that happened. Inconceivable.
It really is. But yeah, I think it can happen again. But it is there's always the first. The first time it ever happened. So, and it's not going to happen enough times where it's not going to matter who did it first. So if we fast forward to the year 3000, we'll be on maybe it happening a dozen times. It'll still be the first. I can't answer for Derek. As close as they came in 01. 04, and to who it happened to, Michael, right?
If it happened to the then Indians, okay, it stinks, but it didn't happen to the Red Sox. You never get out from under that. The world has not been the same since.
It is crazy.
Oh, by the way, Don, a friend of mine just said more fodder for Richard. The winter meetings are technically in the fall. Why aren't they the fall meetings?
It is a good
And
point.
also, if you train, maybe there's training for the spring. Not that they're training in the spring. They're training for the spring.
This is more than I've ever thought about it.
And it's Richard's fault.
This segment. Actually, it's Richard's fault and it's Sean Marks' fault. Those are the two to blame.
Yeah, you say 5:30. Now you're wondering why things are going wrong. They said it's a 5:30 press conference, and you don't show up at 5:30. Right. And you know what? That's not a good culture. 5:30 means 5:30. Yeah. Brooklyn, 5:30 means 5:30.
And quite frankly, you should be thanking us for taking it, and you're making us wait.
Well, now we're going to have to reevaluate whether we take it. Now, Yes is going to take it, but I don't know. I mean, we've got to do point guard, the whole thing. They just have a disregard for the greatness of the show and the things that we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important enough to play on, not to derail a show.
Again, 5:30 is 5:30. It's not 5:45. Epic miss.
Right, Hey, it's a couple of minutes. I get it, but you're 8 minutes late, and this is why. This is what we're talking about.
This is how losing starts. This is how you get 5 coaches in 5 years. These are the little things.
See?
Little things lead to that. All right, we're going to take a break. Hopefully, Sean Marks will clear his throat and decide to talk when we get back right here on Yes and 98.7 ESPN.